here so early this Saturday. Hopefully, I'll be engaging enough. The topic of my presentation today is about integration. Just a little bit about myself. I work at the Hurley School. I'm in my 6th year of teaching. And why I'm interested in integration. The Hurley School has a very diverse population, sort of. And I've been able to see the benefits of an integrated community while working at the Hurley School. However, this diverse population has shifted drastically over the last 15 years. Just 15 years ago, it was mostly a Black and Latino population at the school, 32% African American, 65% Hispanic, and just 1.5% white. If I fast forward to this year, it is only 5% African American, 70% Hispanic, and over 20% white. And this has completely changed the school culture. It's changed the color of the school, and it got me interested in integration because as a teacher, we go through training and development to modify, to scaffold, to differentiate for struggling students, to make accommodations so that all students can access the curriculum, to have one-on-one and small group and individualized instruction, to meet with struggling readers more frequently, and we obviously do this. That's why we're in this profession. We know how important it is, and we also want to make sure that as teachers, we are dismantling all those barriers and cycles of oppression that may be holding our students back. But for me, in my dual language classroom, I struggled with equitable instruction when the students who needed all this support looked like this. They were all white. And I teach full-time in Spanish. So for me, the students that struggle the most are the students who didn't speak Spanish at home. I found myself in my 1st and 2nd year asking these questions. Am I providing equitable instruction? Am I actually helping to close the achievement gap? What systems did I have in place to make sure that my Latino and minority students were making gains? And how am I having a balanced approach to teaching my diverse students? And that brought me to integrated and diverse schools. I went back to Brown versus Board of Education, followed some social media postings about what's happening at Boston Latin School, read about Cambridge and how they're diversifying their schools, even listened to some podcasts on NPR, This American Life. And I noticed 2 things. Recently, a number of researchers and journalists have been calling for integration as a solution to closing the achievement gap and to reallocating resources. And they're looking back to Brown versus Board of Education and that era of integration as a reason why we should be trying to reintegrate our currently segregated schools. And in one of the case studies, I found this quote that the researchers used from Martin Luther King, basically differentiating between the terms integration and desegregation. Desegregation meaning that the classroom and the school may have a diverse body. Integration meaning that there's this positive acceptance of the diversity. And that's very key to the research and the findings that I have from my research. Many journalists and researchers look back to the 70s and 80s after the era of integration to look at the data. It was the fastest that we have come to closing the achievement gap between Black and white students. We closed it by more than 50% for 13-year-old white and Black students. Something that's very interesting, some of the case studies that I saw specifically for Black and Latino students coming into suburban populations. Many white parents were nervous that having this community mix with their community would bring down the test scores of their kids and their children. And you can see that during the 70s and 80s, the test scores for white students didn't drop. If anything, we were just closing the achievement gap by bringing up the test scores for minority students. Unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but in 2007, the Supreme Court decided that using race in order to assign students to schools was unconstitutional, overturning much of what the Brown versus Board of Education sought out to do. And one case study of the Riverview High School, Amanda Lewis and her team of researchers went there to investigate this proclaimed diverse integrated school supporting all of its students. And one of the teachers was quoted saying, as much as it seems like we're together, like we're integrated, we're not integrated. We're diverse, but we're not integrated. We just go to school here together. And this wonderful graph basically explains a little bit about what she's trying to say here. It shows how the regular honors and AP courses are broken down by race. And if this high school is trying to close the achievement gap, you can see that their honors and AP classes are really benefiting the white students, not necessarily, or not the majority of Black and Latino students. However, Nicole Hannah Jones, This American Life, which if you get anything from this, you should definitely listen to this. I had it in my car and listened to it on the way to and from work. Looked at the Normandy district, which lost accreditation, and this was a mostly Black and Latino district that lost accreditation because their test scores were too low. It created a new transfer law which allowed for students from the Normandy district to be bused to another district. They picked a district that was over 35 miles away, 85% white population. She saw that the students from the Normandy district who were bused to Francis Howell district, their test scores and their confidence did go up. However, just I think a year after having this accidental integration, they dismantled it. And she has this theory that society just doesn't want to try integration because it's too difficult for them. Even though for her it's the best solution for closing the achievement. Cambridge Public School has been using purposeful integration for a while now. They used to do integration based on race. They're now doing it based on socioeconomic status by keeping track of the number of students that have free and reduced lunch. Recently, March 29th, there was a WBUR article about Cambridge in Latin, written in Latin, diversifying their school with private school students. Nazir Hicks, one of the students there, said basically that he knows which classes are advanced placement classes and which classes are college placement or remedial classes, just by looking at the color of students inside their classrooms. When he sees a classroom that is white, he already knows that that's a college placement, an advanced placement class. I was also able to interview a few people from Harvard Graduate School of Education. They are researching also integration in different schools. Their team is called the Reimagining Integration Team, and it's led by Lee Teitel. I was able to interview one of the doctoral students, Sarah McLean, who is also white and had very interesting dichotomy of ideas when it came to integrated schools. It's basically like all the articles that I was reading about, it's good, it may not be that good. She was voicing her concerns as well. She says when done incorrectly, integrated schools can reinstitutionalize the things that they're trying to dismantle. She noticed that a lot of the research and efforts that had to do with integrating school came from this white supremacist paradigm, those were her words, reinforcing the misconception that Black and Latino students need white students in order to succeed, and therefore creating a microcosm of institutionalized racism and barriers within schools. However, she also felt that integration is a strategy that is discounted for the reasons that she mentioned above, but that it also can build empathy in students, differences of empathy, and it can be a mechanism to redistribute wealth, access, and resources. Even at the Hurley School, where we pride ourselves in being culturally relevant, and a survey that I did, the students did say that they felt that their teachers did understand their culture. It's inevitable that societal pressures are going to infiltrate their way into the school and the classroom. 70% of our Black and Latino students said that they felt that they had to work harder than their peers, while only 42.9% of the white students felt that they had to work harder than their peers. Some recommendations. I am not for or against integration. I think that it is a tool that can be used if done correctly. I also feel that many neighborhoods in Boston are being reshaped due to gentrification. And that's also changing our school buildings and the culture of our schools. I think that we need to revision and revise the school climate surveys that we give. I know my students barely understand the questions when they're given them, and I think we need to have more clear questions about identity and how students are treated in schools based on their identity. I also think we need to have professional development that isn't just a checkbox. I feel that even in master's programs, the classes that have to do with unpacking privilege, unpacking prejudices, it's usually just a checkbox that is needed, but it doesn't go deep enough into understanding the impact that our own prejudices and biases may have in our classroom. The team at Harvard is also creating a rubric for integrated schools that looks at parents, teachers, the school building and administration, just to have a rubric of what integrated schools can do in order to be successful and not have those systemic barriers. And lastly, I will leave you with this question. Would you have wanted to attend, or would you send your kids to a school that is racially or socioeconomically integrated? Why or why not? under what circumstances, and what would be your biggest fear in doing so?
Wow.
I know.
And that's why he's going to Harvard next year for his master's. Great job. Okay. So the next one is, I am? Okay. The next presenters is Sylvain Lestrade and Joanne Douglas from the Charter Innovation School. They'll present Classroom Size Matters. And then I also wanted to mention there are feedback forms this year that AOT wanted us to, our guests to